So, the name Sundarbans actually translates to beautiful forest. But let me tell you, that name, it kind of hides a pretty dark, haunting reality. Today, in this explainer, we are stepping way beyond mere geography. We're going to explore what is widely considered to be the single most dangerous jungle in the world. I mean, sure, it's a place of breathtaking mystery, but as we're about to see, it's an entire ecosystem built on survival, fear, and a terrifying daily threat. Just picture this for a second. You step into a wilderness, pull out your phone, and nothing. Your modern technology is entirely useless. You check your navigation devices, but the GPS completely fails. The dense canopy and shifting terrain, they're basically just mocking our modern tools. And honestly, it's way more than just losing a signal. Because of the extreme tides and the thick mud, the very paths you walk on literally change behind you. The environment itself plays tricks on you. It's like this massive shifting labyrinth where you're instantly stripped of your bearings and you're just isolated in a vast claustrophobic maze. 50 to 100, just let that number sink in for a moment, okay? Because this isn't some historical figure from a century ago. This is the estimated number of people who are killed every single year in this specific jungle. Between 50 to 100 lives lost annually to tiger attacks. It is absolutely mind-blowing. It's a stark, chilling reality for the local communities who rely on this forest to make a living. Think about it. In most parts of the world, a single wild animal attack is like global news. But here, it's a devastatingly regular occurrence. All right, let's get into Section 1, the shifting mangrove labyrinth. So where exactly is this place? Well, the Sundarbans sit on this huge delta in West Bengal, and it's forged by the convergence of three seriously mighty rivers. You've got the Ganga, the Brahmaputra, and the Meghna. And right where these massive bodies of water meet the sea, they create the largest, most impenetrable mangrove forest on the planet. It is this dense, tangled web of roots just rising straight out of the mud in salt water. It's an environment that completely dictates the terms of engagement for literally anything or anyone trying to navigate it. Now, here is a deeply unsettling truth about the Sundarbans. You know how usually you go to a national park or a nature reserve and you're the observer. You bring your binoculars, you watch the wildlife from a distance. Well, here, that dynamic is entirely flipped. Because of the dense mangroves, the eerie silence, and the apex predator that rules this terrain, you are not the observer. You are the observed. Unseen eyes are tracking your every move. It's the terrifying reality that something is always watching you. Moving on to Section 2, the Royal Bengal Guardian. So this whole unseen threat thing brings up a really fascinating question. Why on earth is the Sundarban tiger so fundamentally different from every other tiger out there? The Royal Bengal tigers of the Sundarbans are basically a mystery wrapped in an enigma. They've adapted to this extreme environment in ways that have completely and terrifyingly altered their behavior towards humans. Normally, a typical tiger actively avoids human contact, right? We simply aren't on their menu, they want easier, more familiar prey. But the Sundarban Royal Bengal tiger? Totally different ballgame. Here, the tiger is actually known as the guardian of the forest, and they are documented notorious man-eaters. In a terrain where your GPS fails, their senses are absolute. They know you're there long before you even realize you're being hunted. They stalk through the mud and water in a way that elevates them from mere animals to these lethal, almost omniscient guardians of the mangroves. Okay, let's jump into Section 3, the legend of Ban Bibi. Imagine living next to that daily threat. How do you even cope? Well, before anyone even thinks about stepping foot into the Sundarbans to, say, fish or gather honey, they turn to Ban Bibi. She is the revered goddess of the forest, an absolutely central figure in local folklore. The belief here is that if your heart is pure, Ban Bibi will offer you spiritual and psychological protection from the tigers. It's this incredible shared fate that actually spans across different religious communities in the region. They don't rely on weapons, they rely on her blessing to survive the deadly jungle. When you're faced with an almost omniscient predator, in an environment where technology fails and the paths are literally disappearing behind you, physical armor is pretty much useless. Faith, literally, becomes the only armor available. It's a profound resilience. It's what allows the locals to mentally face the daily reality of an ecosystem that, frankly, activity wants to consume them. Which brings us to Section 4, sinking islands and climate threat. Now, as terrifying as the tigers are, there's actually a much larger, undeniable existential crisis looming over all of this. Aggressive global sea levels are rising. And we're not talking about some future warning here. We're talking about right now. This is leading to the total disappearance of inhabited islands in the region. And as a result, that massive mangrove shield is rapidly shrinking. The very habitat of the tiger and the natural shield that actually protects the inland from cyclones, it's simply being erased. If you want concrete proof of this devastation, we only need to look at the tragic fate of Lohachara Island. It didn't just flood a little bit. It was swallowed completely by the rising sea. It is just gone. This is the stark reality of climate change in the Delta. It proves that the jungle, the local villagers, and yes, even those fearsome tigers, all share an enemy that is far more terrifying and far more unstoppable than each other. The very land beneath their feet is actively being erased from the map. It's a wild paradox, really. Humans rely on Bon Bibi for protection against the tiger. But as these waters inevitably rise and the largest mangrove jungle in the world shrinks into the ocean, you have to wonder, who will protect the guardian of the Sundarbans? It really asks us all to consider what we lose when the maps are forced to be redrawn. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, stay curious.